The Marvel Cinematic Universe, MCU, has brought countless Marvel superheroes into the spotlight, turning lesser-known characters into household names. However, there's no denying that Spider-Man remains the crown jewel of the MCU, and as such, there's been much speculation about his future in the franchise. With Spider-Man 4 in the works, fans are wondering what's next for the web-slinger. But Marvel Studios head, Kevin Feige, seems to have his eye on a new direction, one that could ultimately jeopardize the strength of the Spider-Man narrative. Feige is reportedly interested in introducing Miles Morales as Spider-Man into the MCU. While this has been met with enthusiasm from some quarters, it's important to question whether now is the right time to move on from Tom Holland's Peter Parker. The untapped potential of Peter Parker in the MCU. A major point of contention regarding Spider-Man in the MCU is how underdeveloped his character has been in comparison to other versions of a hero. For a long time, Tom Holland's Peter Parker was seen as Iron Boy, overshadowed by Tony Stark/Iron Man, Robert Downey Jr. His character growth was stunted, relying on other Avengers to fill in the gaps in his personal journey. It wasn't until the events of Avengers, Endgame and Spider-Man No Way Home that Peter was truly left to stand on his own. However, even now, Peter's journey has barely been explored in its full depth. Classic villains such as Scorpion have been teased but not yet introduced, and iconic storylines from the comics, like the Clone Saga or Peter's interactions with Daredevil, remain untapped. Peter Parker has a rich history and a massive pool of untold stories, making it premature to focus on introducing Miles Morales when Tom Holland's Spider-Man still has so much ground to cover. This could be seen as an immense missed opportunity for the MCU. Miles Morales has yet to establish his own identity. While Miles Morales has a dedicated fan base and has achieved considerable success in Sony's Spider-Verse animated films and the Spider-Man 2 video game, his character still lacks the depth to stand on his own in a live-action MCU setting. Miles was introduced in 2011 in the Marvel Ultimate Universe as a replacement for Peter Parker after his death, and while he's carved out a niche for himself, much of his story continues to draw from the foundation laid by Peter. The fact that many of Miles' most notable villains and love interests are rehashes of Peter's rogues gallery and past relationships speaks to the lack of originality in his own mythos. Even his most iconic love interest, Spider-Gwen, is a multiversal version of Gwen Stacy, Peter Parker's original love interest. This reliance on Peter's established stories and characters has led to criticisms of Miles being more of a clone of the original Spider-Man rather than a fully realized, distinct hero. Additionally, while the Spider-Verse films and the Spider-Man 2 game have helped bolster his popularity, Miles' ability to sustain a solo narrative remains questionable. If the MCU rushes to introduce him without giving his character more development, it could leave audiences feeling like they're being forced to accept him as the new Spider-Man before he's truly earned it. The risk of alienating fans. The biggest concern with bringing Miles Morales into the MCU at this juncture is the potential backlash from Spider-Man fans. Peter Parker has been a beloved character for decades, and Tom Holland's portrayal has earned him a loyal following. If Marvel Studios chooses to transition away from Holland's Peter Parker in favor of Miles, there's a real risk of alienating a significant portion of the fanbase. One potential route Marvel could take is to kill off Peter Parker, which would mirror Miles' introduction in the Ultimate Universe and the animated films. However, this would be a dangerous move for the MCU. Killing off a popular character like Peter Parker could lead to a negative fan reaction, especially if it feels like a forced handover to a character that hasn't yet been fully developed in the live-action world. It's a fine line to walk, and Feige must carefully consider whether the timing is right for such a shift. Alternatively, if both Spider-Men were to coexist, it could dilute the sense of individual identity each character possesses. This would feed into the ongoing trend in comics of legacy characters and mantle swapping, something that hasn't been entirely well received by fans. The MCU would risk diminishing both Spider-Men by constantly drawing comparisons between them, rather than letting each character thrive on his own merits. A better strategy: wait and see. Rather than rush to introduce Miles Morales as Spider-Man, Marvel Studios may be better served by continuing to develop Tom Holland's Peter Parker in the MCU. After all, Peter has barely scratched the surface of his potential, with many iconic storylines still left to adapt. If Holland is willing to return for a few more films, the best course of action may be to focus on developing his version of Spider-Man before introducing a new one. Furthermore, waiting for Spider-Man 4 and Avengers: Secret Wars to unfold would give Marvel a clearer sense of where the MCU is heading in terms of tone and direction. Secret Wars, in particular, may provide a reset button for the MCU, opening up opportunities for Miles Morales to enter the fold in a more natural way after Peter Parker's arc is more fully realized. Conclusion: don't rush to pass the torch. Kevin Feige and Marvel Studios have a tough decision ahead of them when it comes to the future of Spider-Man in the MCU. While Miles Morales has potential, introducing him too soon risks undermining the significance of Tom Holland's Peter Parker, who has only begun to find his footing as a solo hero. The best move for the MCU may be to hold off on the introduction of Miles until Peter's journey has been fully explored, allowing for a more natural transition when the time is right. Miles Morales has a future in the MCU, but that future should come after Peter Parker's story is allowed to reach its full potential.